Jack, how much have you been looking forward to this particular fixture?
I think that's pretty obvious. I think, very much so. This is something we've wanted for a long time. We've always let ourselves down in this competition. So to get into a semi-final, especially being at home as well, it's going to be pretty special for the boys, and one that's everyone's pretty excited for.
Well, absolutely, fingers crossed. I mean, how much is that home advantage diluted by the fact you won't have your raucous fans behind you, though?
Yeah, obviously we're missing them a lot. We're missing the noise. It's very difficult for a team to come down here and perform with the fans we've got and how loud it is and the atmosphere. But again, we love playing at home. We know our pitch very well, and we treat it as a bit of an advantage as well for us being here. So again, like I said, no fans being there is going to be a bit of a weird one as well, but it's one we've kind of got used to over these last few weeks.
I mean, sadly, it doesn't look like they're going to be back anytime soon. How disappointing is that news for you?
Honestly, I think we're obviously pretty gutted of that. I think, we saw a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel with, fans, not this week, but next week with the Irish game. We had a bit of a pilot game being organised for that. So, obviously we're all very disappointed at the club to not have that. And, the big thing we want to do is play these big games, in front of our families as well. It's obviously very, very gutted not to be able to do that now. But, again, we're in another big game, so it still doesn't cloud the fact that we want to go on and win this competition. But obviously, it would be a lot better with our friends and family and our fans here as well.
It's all set up for a wonderful October. 2 trophies for the Chiefs, do you think, next month?
We obviously don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but it's something we really, really want. We've been working extremely hard to get. We did a lot of hard work, like I said, before the lockdown, put ourselves in a very good position and getting out the group for these quarters and semis, and obviously in the Premiership as well. Getting ourselves top of the league. So, we've done a lot of hard work. Now's the time we can, start enjoying these big games. And, we've got a lot of experience over the last few years of playing in these big games. So, we feel like we've got the squad to do it. But obviously it's just how we perform and how we turn out on the weekend.
Jack, 2010, when Exeter Chiefs got promoted out of the Championship, coincided with Toulouse winning a 4th European Cup. You were 17 at the time. It just kind of emphasises the extraordinary journey that Exeter have made in the last decade. Can you just kind of maybe just speak a little bit about what an emotional and extraordinary ride it's been for the club and for maybe for you as well personally?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think we kind of, our roots and, our core values are still very much involved in us boys and here at the club. But, like we said, from just coming up into the Premiership from those 2 Championship playoff games, we were just obviously very happy to be up here, very happy to survive that first season. And it was great fun. I was just coming up, being involved with the team then. So obviously got to watch from the sidelines and things like that. But there's definitely been a massive change, I'd say, over the last 5 years, 5-6 years, where we kind of all said to ourselves that it's cool being in the Premiership, it's nice, but at the end of the day, we want to start winning stuff. We want to start playing in these big games. We want to be in Heineken Cup quarterfinals, semi-finals, and I think a big part of it was some of the boys we've had. We've had a lot of good lads. We have a lot of lads that were still from those Championship days. So I think the most important thing is we've kept our values of having fun, on and off the field, working extremely hard for each other. But obviously, then the ambition started coming in with the coaches, but also the players that they were getting down here at the club as well, that we did want to lift trophies and things like that. And I think the taste of the Premiership finals have been massive for us. Exeter boys being a little bit greedy as well. We always want a little bit more. So obviously the next step for us is a Heineken. And, like we said, we're in a very good position to go for it this year. Just a couple more hurdles to go for.
If I'd said to you back in 2010, that 10 years down the line, you'd be taking on Toulouse as equals in a European Cup semi-final, would that have been too fanciful to even have thought about, even have entertained, or was there always that ambition that there's no reason with building blocks that you couldn't get there in the end?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think the ambition has always been there with the club. It's almost come down from the top with Tony Rowe and Rob Baxter as well. The ambition has been there because they've always set steps and different targets for us. But in terms of players, especially if you said that to me at 17 years old, still being at college, saying that I'll be in a semi-final against Toulouse at home at Sandy Park, played for England and stuff like that, it'd be very surreal, and I certainly wouldn't believe you. I probably thought I'd be fishing with my old man or something.
Cheslin Kolbe, who we'd be coming up against, as a fellow back 3 player, is he one of a kind? Is he a pretty unique player in this day and age?
He's pretty special, isn't he? Obviously me and Cheslin are the same age, so we played our under-20s together. He was obviously played for South Africa. I think he actually played fullback, and I either played on the wing or fullback as well. So, we've kind of followed each other all the way through. So, to see a player like that, how well he played in the World Cup for his country as well. He's obviously going to be a handful for us. So, we spoke about him a little bit, but again, throughout the team, they've got a lot of threats. But the big thing we want to do is try and, threaten them with what we've got as well. So we know that we're going to have to look after him out on the field, and almost soak up what he's got to give, and also try and fire a few shots for our own.
What was he like at under 20s? I bet he was the size of a toddler, wasn't he?
Just as good as he is now. He still had a pretty mean right foot step back then. He's only gotten better.
And I guess England would have faced him in the World Cup final as well. What did they learn about him on that day?
I just think, he's a prime example of his size doesn't matter on the rugby field. He's not the biggest of fellas, but he's extremely quick. He's extremely strong for his size. So he's one of those players where you think you might have tackled him, but you've got to make sure he's on the ground and he's kind of out the game. You give him space as well. He shows what he did last weekend, scoring a couple of tries. It's kind of all you've got to take away from him.
You mentioned there what happened to Cast. What was the discussion there amongst the players when that happened about that sort of hanging over a lot of sides at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's just being sensible. Obviously we're at Exeter. We've got a pretty big uni here, and things like that. But it's just doing common stuff really. It's not about going out to pubs and restaurants in the evenings or weekends after a game. A lot of boys would like to do that. A lot of boys like a few beers after a game. But it's just doing that sensible things instead of going to a pub. Just stay at home. Like a couple of boys can come over and have a couple of pints, whatever. But just don't go out to the pubs and stuff. And that's what we kind of brought in together as a team, because that's what can really let us down. And especially this weekend, if boys went and celebrated a quarterfinal the way we normally do, going out with a few beers, a pub with a few boys and stuff like that, then we could be out of a semi-final because a few boys have showed up with a positive test. So the big thing for us is just try and put that all to the back of our minds and try and eradicate that. You can pick up this virus anywhere. You can go to Tesco's and pick it up, but at the end of the day, if we're doing all we can do to do it, that's going to be better off in the long run.